I
Cool.
like to respect everyone's time, and I appreciate you all showing up on time. So that is so important.
Cool. So then I will also pause my music. Welcome everyone, and good afternoon, good morning, good evening, depending on where you are. Coming from, my name is Valeria Forestanova. I am a ThoughtLab catalyst, and this session is one of the activities we have in our L&D Shakers community. ThoughtLab session concept is where the virtual space where we invite different speakers who share their experience in the learning field, share their lessons learned. And today I'm very happy to share this session together with Dr. Heather Walker. She is an executive coach and organizational psychologist who helps high-performing leaders understand what drives or block their success. And she helps to bring and boost their productivities to the next level. And Heather is going to share her experience how to bring and create every small experience, how to turn it around to a story which you can implement in your learning. So I'm very happy, Heather, that you're here today. And before, by the way, we move on, I would like also to give a quick intro on the butter. So please bear with me. And for those who are, first of all, raise your hands who is new to the butter. Okay, it looks like we have experienced. What about Elisabetta, Kim, Barbara, and Ramya? Oh, it looks like everyone is experienced. Then we can skip this part. Oh, great. Then I'm familiar. For me, it's the first time. So I'm familiar with the butter. Um, so we have one person who is not familiar. Familiar for me, it's the first time. Elisabetta, then I will do a quick one. So on your left side hands, you have a toolbar. You can give reactions by either clicking digits on your keyboard or just clicking the buttons. You can also use the notes and the chat for the interaction. And then just enjoy the session. Have fun. And no more ado, and the floor is yours, Heather.
Thank you so much. I am so excited to be here with all of you today. This is something that it's taken me a while to get to a point where I can say, I can tell a story. I can put a story into training, into what I'm doing. And I know that it's something that can enhance oh, yeah, thank you. I love that. Thank you for the love. Please feel free to use your reaction buttons. I want you to be comfortable in this space right now. And we're going to kick this off right. I'm so happy to be here with all of you as learning and development professionals. We spend so much time pouring into other people. So I really do hope that you find that this session is also pouring back into you as well. Welcome. Welcome to Once Upon a Time, using stories to bring learning to life. We're going to have a good time today. And I need a few volunteers, just a few volunteers to kick this off. And if you're looking for just a little bit of love today, please go ahead and add yourself to the queue. I have a couple of instructions for you. So if you want a little love today, if you want to help me kick this off, go ahead and add yourself to the queue. Thank you, Barbara. Thank you, thank you. Hold there, and we'll get to the queue in just a moment. What I'd like for all of you to do is to take a moment. I just shared my screen, and I want you to think about your favorite storytelling genre. What do you really enjoy? Is it action? Is it comedy? Is it a little adventure? Do you like horror and scary stuff? You know, what kind of stories do you love? And I would like for you to add that to your name. So Valeria, I think that's where I could use a little bit of help. How do they do that? How do they update their name with their favorite genre?
You need to go to the to your icon, zoom on it, and you will see settings. When you go to the settings, you will see display name. Over there, you can change your name.
I'm going to do that for myself too. Here we go. I personally love comedy. Anything that can make me laugh will help me just lock in. So let's see. Documentaries, comedy, adventure. Oh, I love this. Anything emotional? I love that, Snehal. That's excellent. Okay. All right. So we all have our genres. We know what we each like. That is awesome. Now we're going to dig in. We're going to open up the layer. We're going to add another layer to this. So I want to go to the queue. And Barbara, I see you first. So I'm going to hand you the mic. Barbara, welcome. How are you today? You are on mute.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes.
I'm good. First things first, I'm sorry that I don't have the camera on, but I have a skin issue at the moment, so I don't really feel that comfortable. So I
It's
just
all
wanted to
good.
get that out.
It's
But
all
I
good.
feel good. Yeah, thanks for asking.
Yes. Thank you for going first. I do appreciate that. So let's see. You picked comedy and sci-fi.
Yeah, I
Ooh,
couldn't
very
decide.
good. Yes. Okay. What's a story or a show, a movie, something like that that comes to mind for you from that comedy or sci-fi?
So from sci-fi, I love the book Hyperion. I don't know if anybody knows. It's
Mm-mm.
about the future world, basically. But yeah, it's very complicated and very in the future. As for comedy, what comes to mind? I don't know if any show and specifically, but I do improv acting, so there's a lot of like comedy in it.
Yes. Yes. What I love about sci-fi, that you said, oh, it's about the future. It's either this dystopian future where everything is falling apart and you've got that one character who doesn't talk to anyone, but somehow they have to band together and find friends, right?
Yeah,
And save the world. Or you have this amazing, beautiful utopia, but something is wrong with it, right? So
yeah.
my question for you, Barbara, is what is it about this genre? So I'll use sci-fi, for example,
Mhm.
and your Hyperion story.
Yes.
What is it about it that makes stories sticky and memorable for you?
Mm. So for the sci-fi and Hyperion, what
Hmm.
was memorable? Oof, that's a good question. I think partly because I could get like I would feel connected to the characters in some way, like part of their stories somehow connect to my life. So I understand it.
Ooh.
But also I love sci-fi because it's so distant from real life. So for example, like
Hmm.
if I go to see a movie, I don't want to see something that I live every day, right? Like I want to see something um extraordinary. I think that's why I like sci-fi.
I
Yeah.
love that. Thank you. Thank you for going first. Let's give her some love. Let me see. Ooh, a hug. There, you get a hug from me. Thank you. Okay. So, Leif, I see you next. Leif, it looks like you love adventure and is it humor?
Yeah, humor.
All right. So you know the question that I'm going to
Mhm.
ask. Can you pick a movie,
I
a
mean,
show?
yeah, there's one that's most present to my mind right now because I'm listening through this audiobook series. And it's been one of the most like simple, fun, and kind of like addictive stories that I've had in a long time. I keep, wanting to go back to it. And part of it is that it's like there is this humor. There's like this humor in this adventure. So the character is witty, which is something I'm trying to like bring more into my life. So it's an aspect of myself that feels like a reach to myself, where I'm leaning into characteristics of the protagonist. And The other aspects that make it sticky are that it's at that edge of novelty that is almost like relatable in a mundane way or in like an everyday way, but it's at the edge. So it's kind of like a sci-fi. It's a new genre that I've found called like lit RPG. So it's like sci-fi but based as a video game, which I have stumbled onto and been pleasantly surprised.
Okay, so Barbara said, I love that I can connect. I can connect with the characters in some way. It's distant from my everyday experience, but somehow still there's a connection. For you, we've got some similar things. You mentioned, there's some everyday relatability there. And then it also inspires me in some way. It inspires me, and I feel like I can strive with this genre. And that's what makes it sticky. Okay, we've got one more. Valeria, documentary. All right, tell me about this. Pick a story of a show, a movie, a documentary. Which one do you have in mind, and what makes it sticky for you?
The recent one which comes to my mind was a documentary about ocean from David Attenborough. So it's about the current reality that we experience with ocean, that we need to protect it, and how harmful it is, the mass fishing. So what makes it stick to me is the something you relate to. So it's us. It's not something fake, but this is already happening, and it requires our attention. So it's real,
Yes, it's real. There's an element of
Examples.
responsibility.
Yeah.
Yes, accountability. You feel like I have to do something now that I have this information.
Giving
Yes.
you awareness, and now you are not you cannot be blind anymore when you know.
Yes. I love that. Thank you for sharing. Okay. So let's give them some love. Find a reaction that you can share. Yes, I love this huggy reaction. All right. Leif, did you have something else that you wanted to add real quick before we move forward?
Super quick add. When I think back of all the stories through my life that have been really sticky, one thing that's common through them all is that they help shape how I see the world. It takes something that I already think I understand, and then it flips it and makes it different. And so there's a novelty and there's a change in perspective that I really like. And it's every story that I've carried, for the last 15 years, just been like, okay, those are the standouts. Other ones are entertaining, but the ones that stick with me are the ones that change how I see the world.
I love that. That was a great ad. Thank you. It's almost like you've seen my slides or something. Spoiler, Leif is here with me. He knows what I'm going to present today, but we did not rehearse that, and I think that was amazing. Thank you for sharing that. For me, sure. I am always looking for ways to make learning sticky, and I found that stories really help with that. So whenever I can, I like to draw inspiration from common stories, from scenes, from my own experiences, just to help the audience see the challenge that's in front of them in a whole new way. So I'm going to give you an example. Back in grad school, I had this HR management professor who he never came to class with less than 90 slides. And it was terrible. I still remember the day that he walked in, and he said with a smile, "Don't worry, y'all, I only have 90 slides today." And I kid you not, I died a little bit inside that day, y'all. I couldn't escape. I needed that class for credit. It was mandatory. And he liked to share a lot of statistics too. And for 16 weeks, I showed up to every single class, and it was a class that was designed for learning, right? And I sat through 3 hours of this. And I'm embarrassed. You know what? I'm not even going to say I'm embarrassed, but I am a little bit embarrassed to say that I can't remember a single statistic that he shared. And to be fair, he was brilliant. He had so much experience to share. But all that I remember from his class was that he came in one day and said, "Don't worry, I only have 90 slides today." And I was so bored to tears. And if I had to go back and take a test on everything, I might only remember maybe 10% of what he covered, which is really a shame. Have any of you had a similar experience in school? If you have, please raise your hand, your virtual hand. Has anyone had an experience like that? Yeah? Okay, I'm seeing Valeria, you have? I have a couple of questions for you. Which, which class was it?
It was a teacher from history, and I didn't like history back then because of her style of teaching. It was so monotonous. You could easily fall asleep with that. And I remember me falling asleep because it was like, that's what I remember.
Well,
Her
and that's a
waves of tone.
shame because history can be really exciting if you know how to teach it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
agree.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Barbara, what about you? What was your boring class?
Actually, the same. Well, a lot of classes, to be honest. But history comes to mind because of this
Yes.
exact same reason. Like, I hated it. But now I love it. Like, I love to listen to a history podcast that is well done. And I'm like, history
Mhm.
is so interesting, but I just hated it in high school.
Yes. Okay. So if you could guess from 0 to 100%, how many lessons do you remember from that class? Y'all go. This is a good time for you to just pop something in the chat, everyone. Think about a class that you had where it was all slides, all data, 0 to 100%. How much do you remember? Snehal says none. Thank you for your honesty. This is a safe space. 15%. What does 5 max for 5 years mean?
Lessons for 5 years maximum.
Yes, 20%, maybe 40. Okay, thank you. I'm going to come back to this number because I have some statistics to share with you. And don't worry, I don't have 90 slides or anything like that. We tell stories and we incorporate stories because of the ROI. A good story can trigger the release of oxytocin, which is a neurochemical that is linked to empathy, trust, cooperation. It can make it easier to move learners from a point of understanding a concept to actively applying it and moving off the couch to do something with it. So Valeria made that point earlier when you mentioned, I watched this documentary about the ocean and now I want to do something about it. Now I want to change my own behavior because of what I learned, because of the stories that were shared. And for those of you who love stats, there's a cognitive psychologist by the name of Jennifer Acker, I believe, or Acker, who found that when you deliver just facts, people tend to remember about 5 to 10% of the information. But when you tell a story with your data, people remember it about 65 to 70% of the time. So it's not 100%, right? There are other factors involved. Obviously, we've got to get people working with the information. We've got to make it applicable in some way. But when you think about it, so many of us get into learning and development because we love to see those moments when people finally get it. We pour months and months, y'all, into perfecting our slides, into our participant guides, into our activities, just to make this learning thing possible. So why settle for 5 to 10% when you can have at least 65 to 70%? And this next slide is super I feel this next example deep down in my soul because I've been on a keto diet for health reasons. So I will make this make sense. My key takeaway here is that showing data without a story is like serving cake but forgetting the frosting. technically you made a cake, but it's boring. It's forgettable. No one's posting that thing on Instagram. No one's spreading the word about it. But when you add the frosting, a little texture, a little flavor, a little personality, suddenly that cake becomes irresistible. And the frosting doesn't just sit on top of it, it's what makes the experience complete. So storytelling kind of does the same thing for learning. It's the part that helps people connect with the why, which is so important for adults. They don't just want facts. They want to know, what does this mean to me? How does this change my life? And what do I do with this information? So the next time you're building a training, I want you to ask yourself, did I give them cake, or did I give them cake with frosting? So I'm, again, very happy to be here with you today. I'm excited to share this message with you. I'm Dr. Heather Walker. I'm an organizational psychologist, and I work with companies across the US to set up conditions where their people can thrive, both at home and at work. And I've created all kinds of learning experiences over the years. I'm very proud to say that my company was awarded 2 Brandon Hall Excellence Awards last year for custom learning programs that we created for Indeed and P&G. And I love that I get to be here among other L&D professionals because, oh, whoa, yes, ooh, I'm feeling that. Thank you. Because, y'all are cool. Y'all are cool people. You're my people. I don't always get to hang around you anymore. So whenever I do, I get very excited. I know that it's a big space. Some of you may be trainers. Some of you may be HR leaders, instructional designers, coordinators. So I'm going to launch a poll. Let me see. I'm going to do my best to stay on top of my agenda here. I'm launching a poll. I already launched that. We already talked about that. Let's see. So butter, I love butter, and I'm working on getting better at butter. Here we are. What kind of L&D professional are you? Go ahead and take a moment and let me know, because I want to know more about you as well. Do you provide technical support in some way, like a WebEx producer, technologist? Are you a trainer? Are you all able to see the poll? I'm not seeing any votes coming in, so I'm wondering. Okay.
Yeah, I'm looking at the results. It looks like
You can see results?
Yeah.
It
says poll's still open, but 2 for administrative support and 3 for trainer facilitator. Just
okay.
Top.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, normally I can see the results as they come in. For some reason, that didn't happen this time. Great. Okay, so for the most part, I see a good mix. Wonderful. All right. In the first half of this, I'm going to talk about some techniques. Second half of this, we're going to put you in groups with your people, right? So if you're a trainer, you'll work with other trainers. If you're an L&D leader, you'll work with other L&D leaders, and so on and so forth. We have a small group today, so we may cluster some groups together, but you'll get an opportunity to talk to each other about your specific situations and how you can apply these concepts in your world with your stakeholders. For me, I remember a time when I was just starting out, and I used to be in awe of people who could whip up a good story, right? Like they were just in the kitchen whipping up all these stories, bringing up all of these things off of the top of their heads. And I didn't really think that it was something that I could do myself until I found some very simple ways to bring stories into my work. I'm not a communications major. I'm not a certified storyteller, or anything like that, but I do have resources and tools that have worked for me that I'm going to share with you today. I'm going to share a process that is super simple that you can incorporate to reinforce concepts that you want people to remember. And I'm also going to share an example of what this looked like in a real talk that I gave about self-care using the story of Rumpelstiltskin, which is a cool story. And if you haven't heard the story, don't worry, you will be caught up by the end of this session. And if you're interested in this topic, I encourage you to come back to the Learning Playground session that's coming up with Leif Early. He actually, we used to work, we still work together, Leif. We still work together, like all the time.
Yeah.
He watched a 20, right, all the time. He watched a 20-minute version of this particular presentation, and he used it to create a conflict communication program centered around the Wizard of Oz story. So if you're interested in that, Leif is going to present that to you in the Learning Playground. Leif, do you want to say any more about that?
Yeah, I mean, just that, like, I'm so grateful for having learned how to do this and like this lived example of it. Like I say, wanting to bring more humor into my life, wanting to bring more story into my life, and how the power of that has allowed me to bring something forward. And so I'm excited to share just like the lived example of what can come from this the technique and this wisdom that you're sharing. And then it'll be a really fun way for next week to bring people through a novel experience of how to navigate conflict in the workplace that will be unforgettable because of the way that it brings story in this. And my intent is to change perspective a little bit, make something that you'll not forget because there's a story that it's anchored to that changes how you might perceive the world.
I love that. Yes. So come prepared. Do you know what date?
It's on the 12th. Yeah, same time next week, Thursday.
Oh, right. Same time next week. I'll be here too. So you'll see us again. You will. All right. So let's talk about, where do you actually find inspiration? How do you get started with this? First, we have to prepare ourselves. And it's all about your mindset. You can learn something about anything from anyone and everywhere you are. I don't care if you're sitting on your couch right now, you can find something in your environment and create a compelling story from that. I'm going to show you what that looks like. But it all requires you to get curious, to bring a sense of awe and wonder to your world. If we're constantly moving around, constantly busy, chasing, checking this, checking email on our phones, we miss opportunities to say, wow, I'm looking down, I see an ant, and I see how that ant is working together with others as a team to build a castle for the queen. There are so many opportunities for us to take something so small, so everyday, and turn it into something profound. And that's what I want you to be able to do today. And one tool that I want to share with you, I don't know if y'all are familiar with these pip decks. Let me see if you can see this. Have you heard of pip decks? Yeah? Okay. I got so excited about these. I'm actually going to put it in the chat. When I was younger, and I still consider myself young, I used to save all of everything, my files, all of my research articles, everything. I would just save it. And any lessons that I learned from my colleagues and friends and things like that. And what I love about pip decks is that they take all of these lessons that it would normally take you maybe a decade to pick up over time, and they put them in these really cool cards. And you can use these cards to create. They have storyteller cards, workshop builders, team building cards, ideas, innovation, lots of different topics. And they condense maybe a decade's worth of experiences and tools and techniques into some cards that allow you to build out full programs in a really short time. So that's one tool that I would like to share with you if you haven't heard of Pip Decks yet. And I also want to tell you that you don't need a budget. So these actually cost money. But if you don't have money, don't worry. We're about to do something super low budget, aka free. So you can find really rich insights walking down the street, talking to a kid, playing a game, watching a movie. Don't be afraid to look for insights, especially when you're doing something new. I like to force myself to try new things because when I try new things, it forces me to slow down and I recognize elements about the experience that I wouldn't normally recognize with something I'm used to. So get out there and do new things. You can reinforce what you're teaching by dissecting those experiences, really taking the time to appreciate the moment so that you can then reinterpret it and connect it to what that moment teaches you and what that moment can teach other people too. So I'm going to give you a list, and I want you, before I give you this list of how you can draw inspiration from the everyday, I want you to go ahead and post in the chat. You can use GIFs, words, pictures, whatever works for you, an activity that you do outside of work. Go ahead and post something that you do outside of work. Don't overthink it. It can be something that you enjoy a lot. It can be something that you enjoy a little. It can be something that you do not enjoy at all. All right, improv. Yes, I love improv. It's so much fun. Gardening, walking beside the river. Ooh, I love that. Someone teaches, Valeria, do you homeschool? Is that homeschooling? Okay.
Volunteering at Ukrainian school every Sunday.
Nice, nice. Dancing, and is that what was that show way back when? Is it Soul Train? That takes me all the way back. Going to the gym, yes. Puzzles. Okay. Lock it in. You've got your activity in mind. Okay. I want you to think about that as I go through this list, because sometimes an epiphany is going to come to you straight away. And sometimes you sort of need to do some research. Sometimes you need to reflect and really pull out those nuggets of wisdom for your audience. So I'm going to help you with some questions to ask yourself so that you can pull out some of these nuggets of wisdom. And since the focus today is really on finding the moral of the story, these questions are designed to help you extract the lessons. All right. So let me see. The first question that I have for you is, what is special about this activity? What is special about it? What is exclusive about this activity? Is this something that only a few people know how to do? Like, for example, the Rubik's Cube. I just saw something on Instagram where someone took Rubik's Cubes and they made a life-size picture wall of The Rock with Rubik's Cubes. Like, it's hard enough to get the Rubik's Cube to do what you want it to do, but then to stack them up and create a mural, like, what kind of genius is that? So what's exclusive? Does everyone have access to it or only a few people? Does it only affect a certain type of person? What are the steps involved in this activity? This information can be really helpful if you need to explain it to your audience. So you may be used to walking down by the river, but when it's time for you to talk about that experience of walking down the river, you want to draw it out. You want to talk about what it's like to pick the right shoes for the walk and selecting the right time and knowing, exactly where you're going to go on your route. You want to really draw out those steps. And what is the purpose of this activity? If you're talking about a car, for example, the obvious purpose is to get from point A to point B. But you might also point out that a 17-year-old boy might see a car as a way to attract the ladies, right? So yeah, it can get you from point A to point B, but a non-obvious purpose is dating and catching the ladies. So think about that for your activity. Is there a non-obvious purpose for it? What is the history of this activity? What's its origin story? Did people always drive cars? No. They used to travel by horse and buggy and on foot. So what sparked the move to cars? At some point, someone had to convince people that this was new breakthrough technology that they need to get on board with. And why was it so important that we achieved that breakthrough in history? So really start to get curious about it. What is the origin story of this thing? How does this activity relate to a challenge that your audience is facing? This is a really big one because this is what gets them to perk up and say, oh, they know me, they understand me, they're speaking to me and my challenges. So going back to my own situation, I used storytelling for a wellness talk. If I were to relate it to a car, I might talk about what happens when the alignment is off. I'm driving the car and the tires start to get misaligned and we're veering off. And what if the alignment starts to get off and I don't take the car in for maintenance? Well, it's going to start to break down. It's going to start to wear in ways that it shouldn't wear. And eventually, I'm not going to be able to drive that car very well. It's going to be a really rough ride. Same thing happens with your body. So are there connections that we can draw between something that the audience may care about, which I was talking to an audience of dudes who care about cars. So I wanted to relate cars to wellness for them. And then what is common that most people experience about this thing? So back to the car, I might mention that we often have maintenance plans for our cars and other stuff that we own, but not many of us have a self-care plan for the proper care, watering, and maintenance of our mental health and well-being. What's the key takeaway of your experience? When you participate in that activity, what did you learn? What do you get out of it? What do you get from it? And what does it teach you about what should and shouldn't be important in life? So I love earlier at the very beginning, Leif mentioned that one thing that makes stories sticky is when they reshape how you see the world. So how does this experience reshape how you experience the world? All right, so those are my 9 ways to draw inspiration from the mundane, the everyday experiences. We're going to give you an opportunity to have a conversation about this. And because we have a small group here, I don't think we're going to do breakout rooms because that does not make sense. We're just going to go around the space, and I'd like for you to share your activity and any insights as you were listening to my list. You don't have to go through all 9, but any inspiration that came up for you. So if you can go ahead and add yourself to the queue, we'll use the queue to do our around the robin room experience sharing. So there's a Q button that looks like a hand, like this. There we go. All right. All right, we have a couple people in the queue. Elizabetta, Shahal, we'd love to hear from you too. Okay, so Leif, why don't you go first? What was your experience?
So I went with the gardening version, and I was thinking about how there's something about it that is as old as human time. I mean, at least, well, I guess maybe not hunter gatherers as much, but like as old as society and agriculture, where the simplicity of dirt and seeds and water and time have created something that is essential to our lives. And in the modern world, there's something new in a way where it's like, well, you can go to the grocery store, but what is it about gardening that attracts people? There is the sense of independence or sustainability, but most gardeners that I speak to talk about the peace or the serenity or the connection that they find, and the simplicity of stepping out of the modern life, or like the next Zoom meeting, or this project and the responsibilities, to simply like be with the dirt, or even in versions of like aeroponics or hydroponics, or it's like creating systems that are then thriving life. I'm a big advocate for permaculture, as the human mind creates the ability for systems to thrive. So I don't need to go off on a big tangent here, but that I get excited about it because there's different levels that this analogy can be applied depending on the audience, whether it's the system building, whether it's the in-person experience of that calmness, or whether it's the sense of being part, how simple actions can create something so much greater than self. Water, dirt, seed, time, and new life emerges. So I feel like I had these epiphanies of like, oh my God, this could go in so many different directions, and is inherently relatable because we all eat.
Yes, there's so many. I'm even thinking about other things too, like the seed has all of the information in it. There's so many ways that you can take gardening and seeds and planting and that whole experience. Yes, thank you for sharing. Okay, Barbara, what about you?
So I have the improv, and well, there are so many things that are special, but I think one of the special ones that I found out that I didn't know, that is not about you. It's about making the person shine. So, because if you're not doing that, if you're just wanting to be the one who's the center of attention, you're not going to create a nice story. So you have to like do it for the story and do it for the others, not for yourself. And I think that's what's special about it. Yeah.
That is so good. I wasn't going to say this. I thought about this last night when I was like, yeah, when you're getting ready and you're thinking about other things that you could pack into your presentation, and you're like, no, I'm not going to add that. But one thing that you said that sparked this for me is that sometimes people overshare, right? They overshare, and I think it would be okay to share. It's not necessarily the sharing that is the challenge, but the challenge is, why are you sharing? Are you sharing just to share, or are you sharing to make a point? And as long as your sharing, your personal sharing, is connected to a point that will help the other person, then it becomes okay. So I'm glad that you brought that up, because you could become paralyzed if you're not careful, thinking, oh, well, I don't have anything to share. And it's like, yeah, you do. You have a lot to share. You just have to think about, how does it connect to that other person? So thank you. Thank you for bringing that up. That was a really good insight. Yeah. Okay. Who do we have? Valeria.
Thinking now how to not overshare. My experience was about teaching kids. Well, first of all, it's emotionally rewarding. And especially when I moved to another country, I was looking for community. I was looking for new friends and a new job. And it was the first opportunity that popped up. It's not I would say for everyone, since it's every weekend, every Sunday. So for someone, it's quite a commitment because you need to travel. It takes some time, and then kids can be very energy draining. So that's why I find it exclusively, because it's not for everyone, and it's also kind of free. But what I like is to be surrounded by like-minded people and to get this family feeling, especially when you live abroad. So that is one of my main reasons I do it, to get this connection and family feeling every time I come there and I teach kids. It's also, by the way, a great opportunity to gain training and facilitation skills. The target audience is a bit different than the business audience, but still is a good learning platform to train the skills. And in the end, what it gives me, what is the key takeaway? Friendship, network of like-minded people, a lot of love from kids, and also a great awareness how kids are learning, how they're experiencing the world.
So one thing that comes to mind is if you were sharing with a bunch of learning and development professionals ways to enrich your life and your day and become a well-rounded professional, that would be a great story to share about that you were able to still hone your skills, but with a different audience, right? And so you're learning lots of lessons about being versatile in these different settings. You're connecting with people. I think that would be wonderful. And considering where you're at with L&D Shakers, it makes sense that that would be a story that you might share with others to inspire them to go outside of just the office and do something different. Apply your skills to a different group, in a different setting, and in a different way. Does that make sense? Or did I just make that up for no reason? Did that make sense, Valeria?
Perfect addition, Heather.
Okay, thank you. Snehal?
Yeah, so I think I wrote walking beside the river on a daily basis. So I think the story goes to my childhood. I'm born and brought up in a very concrete kind of city, always lived in that kind of structure. And whenever as a kid, someone used to ask me to draw anything, I was very bad in drawing. So I always used to draw a river, and there are a lot of grass and mountains and boats going through the river and everything. And I think as a kid, I used to think, this looks so wonderful in a picture. It must be so nice to walk around the river. And then as I grew up and moved to different continent, different country, and just got lucky to have river just 1 minute from my house. And then when I go and walk there every day, I feel like, okay, I used to draw this thing, and now I'm walking through my drawing. So it feels really nice that how far I came from maybe 7 years old Snehal and now 32 years old Snehal. What a huge difference, but still there is that simple dream that is still living there. And now I'm just walking through that dream. Maybe it's very simple, but yeah. So I think that's the gist of what I see from it.
Yes. Follow your dreams is
Yeah.
what I'm hearing. That inspiration. Follow your dreams. They can come true. If you are delivering a program about career advancement options, if you're delivering a program about designing your life, that would be a great story to incorporate in there. So
Yeah.
thank you for sharing that. And then I want to give space. Magnolia, I noticed that you joined us. Are you with us?
Yes, the daily activity will be drawing also, and
Ooh.
um, I think there are many obvious things like to have a result, like a painting, a drawing, but there are some non-obvious purposes, like you start to contemplate the object that is observed, the nature, even the life, through the drawing. Then I think drawing helps people to develop the observation capabilities and also help the people to learn how to deal with the reaction of the audience, because each time an artist creates something, there is an audience that have some expectations. Then I think the drawing teach people to discern how to deal with these emotions, how to connect with others through art, and also how to develop the capacity of observing that is very deep from the artistic.
Yes, yes. So if you're delivering some kind of a program where you're teaching people about art and they're coming in and adults are like, I'm not creative. I don't draw. I don't know how to do any of those things. They come in like that. And you're just trying very hard to help them. You can pull in a story like this about the power of art and how it helps you become a better observer and how it helps you become the kind of person who is maybe there is even a way for you to somehow link it to active listening or something that they really are trying to work on. So that's cool. I'm glad that you brought up art as well. And Elisabetta, are you with us? Elisabetta, I want to give you an opportunity to speak if you want to. Okay. All right. I won't force anyone to say anything if you don't want, but I do want you to know that we are all here to learn from each other today, and we can learn something from everyone at any time in any space, including this one. Barbara, you have a comment?
Yes, I just wanted to comment on the drawing because I love to use drawing in my workshops. And what I noticed, if I say drawing, then people are like, no, 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 I don't know how to draw. So I started using the word doodling because I feel like anybody can doodle. So it's just a tip. And I feel like people are less resistant to doodling because everybody can kind of doodle, whether drawing or like painting. That seems scary. Yeah.
Yes, that's a really powerful reframe. Thank you. Doodle. I'm going to have to use that next time. I've had to think about things like that too, like role play. Has anyone, have any of you done role play and you get people who are really grumpy about role play? The word? Is it just me? I have a reframe if you want it. Do you want it?
Yes, please.
Okay. Like just like, yes, yes. Scenario practice. We're going to practice some scenarios. And that takes a lot of the oh no, I have to act, I have to do all of this, I'm going to be on the spot with role play, because a lot of people don't like that. All right, so that's everyday experiences. What if you don't want to talk about yourself? What if you don't want to talk about your personal life and you don't want to share all of that stuff? You don't feel comfortable yet doing all of that. I get it. And I have a solution for you on the next slide. You can use fairy tales instead. So back in 2011, there was a show that I binged watched. I love this show. It was called Once Upon a Time, and it was about a real town somewhere in Maine where all of these fairy tales from the Brothers Grimm came to life. And what was special about this show, and I think what's special about that time, was that they didn't pretend that the villains were evil for no reason. The show presented their backstories and the thoughts that they wrestled with, the struggle that they had. It showed that we all have the potential to either be a hero or a villain, and that no one is all good or all bad. And it gave us all a new way to experience and appreciate these stories. Before this, all of the villains were just bad. They're just bad for, we don't even know why. They just like to do bad things and hurt people. But when this came out, we realized, oh, wow, we all have a little villain in us. We all have a little hero in us. It's just about choices that we make. So fairy tales, Disney movies, parables, common stories are really great places to start, because most people in your audience are going to have a basic understanding of the story. And an added bonus of this is that these stories already come with a moral that's baked in, or a lesson that you can learn that's already baked into the story. And you can add an element of surprise, and your audience will appreciate it if you add a fresh reinterpretation of that story that they grew up with, right? And you can do this by reminding the audience of the story, relating it to the character's challenge, relating their challenge to sort of a modern day challenge, and connecting those. And then show the audience, show how is that person like us, right? Give the character a modern day job title. Talk about what they would be trying to accomplish, what their scene from the third floor apartment in the middle of Brooklyn would be. Really take the time to think about their motivations and their tendencies. Bring it to life. So I'm going to share an example of how I used the Rumpelstiltskin story to illustrate a point about wellness. And before I hit play, I want to get a couple of volunteers to share. What do you think the moral of the Rumpelstiltskin story is? You can type your ideas into the chat too. So you can, is that Barbara? Yes. Barbara, I'm tossing you the mic.
Oh, wait, I thought we were going to hear it first. I'm not sure if I know the story.
I love it. You're like, I'm ready. Okay.
Wait, what's the name of the story again?
Rumpelstiltskin. What is the moral of the Rumpelstiltskin story? Okay, let me do a quick poll. If you know the Rumpelstiltskin story, thumbs up. If you don't, thumbs down. Okay. Most people, a couple people don't. Okay. If you know the story, what do you think the moral is? It's a small group. You can go off mute.
There's a sense of perseverance and belief in self and honesty.
Okay. Perseverance, belief in self, honesty. Would y'all agree? Does anyone have anything else they want to add? There's no wrong answers here. Only fun answers. Going to give you a couple more seconds to think about it. All right. I'm going to share this clip. I warn you, it is a 6-minute clip. So this is but it's a good clip. Okay, so don't leave. It's a good clip. But this is a good time for you to go off camera, get up, and stretch while you're watching the clip. So I'm giving you an opportunity to kind of take a break from being on camera while you watch this. And I think I might need to reshare my screen real quick so that you can actually hear the audio from this clip. Let's see. Share audio. There we go. And if you can hear the audio in just a moment, please hit the thumbs up button so I know.
Phone's here for. I want you to take some notes, and as I ask questions and you get some insights about your own behavior, your own habits, go ahead and jot those insights down. You're going to be more likely to actually finish your plan after this is done if you start to do that. Okay, so we're going to start with the R. The R stands for recognize. Do you all remember this story of Rumpelstiltskin? Rumpelstiltskin? Okay, so for those of you who have never heard the story, has anyone never? Awesome. We're gonna talk. Okay, so here's the story of Rumpelstiltskin. There was a mill operator, if you will. You know, you grinding down flour and stuff, like however you make flour. A mill operator, he was going through town bragging that his daughter could take straw and turn it into gold. And the king got wind of this and said, you know what? I want some of that gold. I need some money. I heard the presentation earlier. What are we looking at? 15 billion with a B? Yes. I would love to have a little person make me some gold out of some straw. And so the king got really excited about this, and he actually had people lock this little girl up with a whole pile of straw, and he said, hey, you need to turn this into gold overnight, or else you die. So, you know, these days we say go big or go home. Back then they said something like go big or die, right? So he had her doing all of this. And luckily, this little guy, Rumpelstiltskin, showed up. He was like a medieval consultant with magical powers. And he helped her out. He helped her turn this straw into gold. And he did it night after sleepless night. And the king got so excited about this. He said, you know what? This chick is rich. I'm not going to do any better than this. I'm marrying her. And she was able to get that promotion, right? Because back in the day, you have king, you have queen. Those are the highest titles in the land. She was able to get a pretty high promotion. So she got the status, she got the man, and she had a baby on the way. She had the stuff too. She had the gold. But she wasn't happy, was she? Does anyone remember why she wasn't happy? You don't?
The king demanded ever more gold.
Actually, that's not why she wasn't happy. So for those of you who are tuning in, someone said because the king demanded more gold. Yes, that's why. She was not happy because of what she had to do to get all of that stuff, the status, and someone else, that man, right? And she wasn't at peace. She wasn't at peace. She was restless. She wasn't sleeping. She ran the risk of losing something that was really, really precious to her, her unborn child. So for her, you know, for us, that seems like some old story. What does that have to do with my life, right? I don't get it. Why are you bringing this up? But let's think about it. Have you ever been put in a situation that seemed impossible? It seemed like, wow, you're asking me to do a lot, and I don't know how I'm going to get it done. I mean, this little girl, she didn't know how to do it. And she was able to make it happen. So have you ever been in a situation like that, where perhaps the sales team makes a promise and you're like, wow, how am I going to deliver on that promise? Or, I know I'm looking at the sales team right now. I'm going to look away. Or your supervisor says, sure, yeah, we can do that, without even bothering to look at your schedule. And now that means you've got to clear your weekend plans to make it happen. Sure. So I think we've all been in situations where there's been a lot of pressure to conform, pressure to perform, pressure to get it done. And we have to figure out, how am I going to do this? What do I need to sacrifice to make this happen? So I want you to start to think about that. What is that Rumpelstiltskin in your life? I'm going to call the obligations that come up that make us feel like, ooh, I've got to push some things that are really important to me out of the way. I've got to make some sacrifices. I'm going to call those Rumpelstiltskins. What are those in your life? And then what are those things that kind of drain your energy? Those daily hassles. It might not be at work. It might be a long commute. Does anyone in here have a long commute? Yeah? How long is your commute, sir? 1 hour. I used to have a commute like that, and I started listening to podcasts just to get through it, right? Yeah. It could be a long commute. It could be waiting in another line at the grocery store. I don't know about you, but I feel like those lines are getting super long, and they're always long, right? It's so busy at all times. It could be your child who needs extra support at school, and you're trying to figure out, how am I going to help this kid? So you can have those medium-sized stressors, the workload stressors, but you can also have daily things, daily mosquito bites that kind of zap your energy, and they threaten to take you down silently. And then there are the big things, the very, very big things that can get in the way as well. So the American Psychological...
Okay. All right. You're still with me. Welcome back. So this is an example of how you can take a story that is a really, really old story, right? Retell it. It's a German story, like 1800s old, from the Brothers Grimm. Chances are good that most people in the audience have heard about it, but I would caution you not to just kind of assume that everyone in your audience knows the same stories that you do. Because I was even surprised that a few people in the audience had never heard of Rumpelstiltskin. And even today, we had about a couple of people here in this space who hadn't heard that story, or maybe forgot about that story. So I wanted to make sure that I shared the story first so that everyone could have the same baseline knowledge, and then relate it to a modern challenge. Remember, I mentioned that before. You just heard me go over the story and how it actually relates to the modern challenge of having to do more with less. So if you spend any time on social media right now, you're going to see that it's really common for people to complain about their corporate overlords who want them to do magic by creating profit for the business with limited resources. Luckily, we are here in a safe space. This is not sponsored by a specific company or anything like that, so we can talk about it. But that's a common experience that people have. And I asked you to think about the standard moral to the story, right? In this case, the audience may come in with this idea that the moral to the story is going to be, don't lie about your capabilities and what you can do, or else, because that's kind of where the story was leading. You know, the girl didn't know how to do this. Her father knew, and he basically put her in this situation and lied, and death was the penalty for that. So it's pretty safe to assume that the audience may, naturally think, oh yeah, you don't lie or about your capabilities. but you can flip it. You can add more layers to the story. So you can also show their humanity. Don't just end with the expected. I would encourage you to go deeper and look for a way to surprise them by extracting those unexpected lessons. The novelty is going to make the story and the lesson stickier. And in this case, my reinterpretation was name the thing that is holding you back so that you know what you're dealing with and you can come up with a plan to address it. So she had to name Rumpelstiltskin. She had to figure out his name so that she could address her anxiety about having to give up her child if she didn't figure out what his name was in time. So, there are just different ways that you can interpret the story. I would encourage you to bring up new interpretations for your audience. All right, let's see. Real quick, what other connections could we make in this story? Go ahead and if you have any ideas, post them in the chat. I am also going to share some additional ideas as well. Does anyone have any ideas? Any other interpretations? Work-life balance matters, yeah. It could also spotlight the father's poor parenting choices if we're talking to an audience of parents, right? So we could spotlight Rumpelstiltskin's tactics if we're talking to a group of sales professionals. I see personal boundaries as another theme, yeah. We could also spotlight the king if we're talking about leadership choices and ethics and where should we actually draw the line in pursuit of the almighty dollar. What is okay? What is not okay to do? Is it okay to lock people up? Is it okay to force people to work nights, weekends, and all around the clock with limited resources to get things done? So there are lots of angles that you can take with a story like this, and I absolutely love that. Communication problems, problem solving, yes, 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 yes. So when we tell a story, we're really transporting the audience into this new place. We're taking them on a journey, and it's our job to help them bridge the gap between where they sit right now and where we ultimately want them to go. And in just a minute, we're going to talk about what this looks like in your world. I just want to make sure that I'm adding one more layer into this before we get into the conversation, because it's your job to bridge that gap for them. And if you skip this step, you can tell a story, but it may not resonate with them, right? It's sort of the difference between I'm sharing for sharing's sake versus I'm sharing and you go, aha, now I get it. So I want you to think about your audience and what they struggle with. What are their challenges? What keeps them up at night? What are they afraid to tell other people about? The closer you can get to this, the more relevant your message is going to be. My audience with a presentation like that is typically people in management positions. So let's say I need to talk to a group of leaders about the importance of self-care, which is a mindset, so that they can take better care of themselves and their teams, which is that behavioral change that I want to convince them is important. They may be facing things like, how am I going to find time for all the priorities that I set for myself today? And then also do this other stuff that you're talking about. Everyone wants a piece of me and I want to give it to them, but now I don't have enough time to work and go to the bathroom and eat and walk around and get my steps. I don't have time. I just don't have time. I'm exhausted and I'm just pressing on, doing whatever I can to just get the work done. A lot of people that I work with are overachievers who are used to living outside of their comfort zones and making mountains move to get things done. And they really do kind of get a rush from it, but they've been doing it for so long that the habit of high caffeine, high stress situations low physical activity is really starting to wear on their bodies. And so they struggle. And their struggle is with saying no, and saying no to things that on the surface look like opportunities, saying no to worry, and admitting that they can't do it all. Because to them, admitting that they can't do it all might be seen as weakness. So that is their before state. I want to promote self-care, and they think, I just need more coffee. That's self-care for me. I want them to think, I can do a good job and be good to myself too. It's not either or. So some of the obstacles that we need to address to get them from point A to point B is the way they manage their time, their self-talk, how they set and communicate boundaries without burning those bridges. So if I could boil down their point A, their starting point, into one or two words, that for me would be overfunctioning. They're overfunctioning, they're overwhelmed. So let's continue with this example. You want to think about your audience. What is their point A? What are the obstacles that they're facing that get them from point A to point B? And the word overfunctioning sums up my audience and their situation. I might also come up with the term maxed out. And, you know, they're moving way beyond their limits. Can anyone think of a story, a parable, an example, anything like that where a character experienced that, where they were moving beyond their limits? You can pop it in the chat. You can go off mute.
Yeah, I think because we okay, I hear my own voice.
For some reason, the audio is breaking up a little bit. Can you say that again, please?
Yeah. Audible now?
It's so weird. It was so clear earlier. Maybe can you put it in the chat, Snehal? I apologize. Yeah. Thank you. So while you're doing that, Cinderella. Ooh, that's a good one. I didn't think about that one. I love it. I love it. One story that came to mind for me, because they were on fairy tales, then it's the story of Elsa from Frozen. Ooh, yes. Okay. I love that. I love that y'all added those in. Elsa from Frozen. Another one to consider is Icarus. So a modern day lesson that we could apply in this day and age is that, you know, leaders and high performers, they may work so hard, fly so high, that they often don't realize how close they are to burning themselves or their teams out. Some other stories that could connect to that are the sister from the movie Encanto, who was the strong one, right? Always the strong one, never able to relax or enjoy anything because people were always expecting her to do. We have Shrek, Mulan. Yes. So you can use stories to warn your audience that something bad is going to happen if you don't change your ways. So that's another really great way to use stories. What I'm going to do in the interest of time, because I see that all of this time has already passed, I'm going to share the rest of the framework, and then I'm going to give you a template that you can take back with you to work. So is that okay with y'all? Because we were going to do a breakout and we were going to talk, and clearly we don't have time for that. But I do want to give you the template. So the flip side of this, y'all, is there's struggle on one side of the coin. On the other side of the coin is hope. Your audience needs hope for what could be. No one sets out to burn out. No one says, when I grow up, I want to work all hours of the night. I want to neglect the people that I care about. No one does that. This is a circumstance that people slide into, like frogs slowly boiling in a pot. So for most of us, it's not going to be appropriate to just leave the audience sitting in the struggle without helping them see a path forward. They want a transformation. They want a better future. And you can help them put that into words. So going back to the example that I had before, the wellness example, it might be at work, they want to find a way to continue to be a superstar no matter how much gets added to their calendar. That might be what they want. So remember, point A, point B, they may be thinking, my true transformation is I put on a cape and I do it all, no matter what. They may want to, at home, find a way to be resilient no matter what life throws at them. These are kind of big goals, kind of potentially even unrealistic in some cases. Is there a story that we can pull out to motivate them to see what's possible before we tell them, hey, here's a way to do self-care? Is there a story? Can y'all think of a story where one of the characters overcame the odds to achieve an outcome like this, where they were able to do more with less? I think it could be all of the stories that you mentioned before, right? So that's another way to think about it when you're thinking about what story do I pick. You can look at it from the side of hope, or you can look at it from the side of warning, struggle, when you're thinking about that hero's journey. So my challenge to you is to see yourself as an L&D professional. Our work involves installing new mindsets and changing behaviors. Ultimately, that's what we do. And one of the benefits of being a part of L&D Shakers is that you get to learn from each other and the experiences and compare notes and all of that. So I'm going to share a framework with you, and you can take this back and you can use this to kind of map things out. It's in the toolbox. Valeria, I don't know if you're able to help me find this because it was connected to the breakout room, but it's the L&D storytelling butterboard. Are we able to share that with them in any way? Okay, perfect. You're sharing the butterboard?
Yeah, is it the right one?
Yes, that's correct. So this is very simple. You can even write this down on a piece of paper for yourself right now, where you think about who are my stakeholders? Who are the people that I serve, or the people that I need to convince, the people I need to influence? If I'm a trainer or a facilitator, who is going to be in the classroom? What is their challenge? What is their before state? What kind of transformation are they going to have after they encounter me and everything that I'm about to teach them? And then what stories connect to that? Whether they are your everyday experiences or your fairy tales. So you start to plot that out, and before you know it, you can have a whole list of stories that you can infuse into your workshops to bring all of your concepts to life. So how do they get a copy of this?
To be honest, I don't have the immediate answer, but we will figure out and we will share it in the follow-up.
Okay. I think it's simple enough that you can see it and recreate it literally on a piece of paper. And that's what I was aiming for with this, is to say, okay, what can you recreate? And I'm happy for you to have a copy of the slides if you're interested in that as well. Let me wrap with this. Am I still sharing, by the way? Can you still see my screen?
No, we see the storytelling board.
Okay, so let me reshare my screen. I want to make sure that I wrap up properly. Okay. All right. So, y'all, I used a lot of different stories today, and they weren't elaborate. I used a university professor, frosted cake versus plain cake, a car, Icarus, the strong woman from Encanto, the story of Rumpelstiltskin, all of these as examples that connect us back to things like working hard, feelings of overwhelm, stress, burnout, how we can connect with our audiences. And you can do the same thing in your practice and with your audience. And I want you to just remember to give them an overview of what happened and reinterpret that, or even present a new lesson for them, something that they just didn't expect, like surprise and delight them so that they get that takeaway. Remind them of what that takeaway is that you want them to have. Don't just tell the story, because they might not get the same takeaway that you think they're going to get. So make sure you tell them what the takeaway is. And that's it. Those are my simple techniques for adding story into the work that you do, whether it's a presentation, a workshop, a training program. I want to thank you for your time today. I hope that you join us next week, where Leif is going to show how he took this and turned it into something using the Wizard of Oz story. And we're going to play with that. And if you're interested in connecting with me, please, you can find me on LinkedIn, and I'd love to connect with you on LinkedIn. So before we go, do you all have any feedback, any insights that you gained from today's conversation, anything that you're taking away from this? You can add yourself to the queue if you want to say something, or you can type something in the chat. Innovative way of facilitating. Barbara, you have a comment? Thank you, Snehal.
Yeah, for me, it's just, I've always known that storytelling works, but I think I thought it was like hard and that I need to learn a lot about it before I can implement it. But actually today's lesson taught me that it's actually pretty easy and that I can take, anything from my life and make it into a story. And if nothing fits, then I can just take a story that already exists. So I really like that. Yeah.
I appreciate that. Thank you. And Leif?
Seeing this as kind of like a muscle, like it's not like, I love this, and my experience with this, like for next week, it's like a big thing. Okay, I've got this project. How do I use story? Like a very larger scale intentional practice. But one of my takeaways from today is like, this is a little muscle. This is every day, every moment, what's the little thing? Oh, the conversation with somebody at the grocery store, or the piece at work. And each piece can just be a bit of a reframe. And it's a mentality that I want to be taking on more, and not thinking it needs to be a big thing, because actually a lot of the magic that I'm experiencing now is just the little reframes and the little everyday nuances of life.
Yes. That is so good. Thank you. Magnolia, I see you typing. Valeria, I see you typing. Please type quickly. All right. Every experience and perspective can be turned into a story. And I studied a bachelor in creative writing, but surprisingly, I never learned through storytelling. Would have been amazing to learn this way. Thank you. I appreciate you all. And I hope that we see you next week. Again, find Leif on LinkedIn. We'd love to connect with you there. Take care, and I hope you have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was amazing.